कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम्। Consistent listening to the scriptures, consistent contemplation on the message of the scriptures, and a very, very conscious adaptation of the principles mentioned in the scriptures, they make our lives more meaningful. The meaning of life or the joy of life is not just a selfish motive. The very fact that we are all living in a society where others are also there and we perceive them as other than us. Each one of us is an individual, and we are able to perceive. We cannot say no. We cannot say I don't see many people. We can't say that. For example, I can see the smoke, I can say I can't see the smoke. Smoke may not be visible from a far distance, may not be visible. But the multiplicity of a species just like me, the multiplicity of a species just like me is absolutely visible to each and every one of us. There is no doubt that there are many people and they are of different natures. So, if we have the intention of having a cordial and harmonious life, then each one of us has to adopt certain qualities in each one of us consciously. Consciously, because we do so many things consciously. Some things just like that because of force of habit. Many things we do by force of habit. But every day there is at least a bit of an activity which is not due to the force of habit. And that is where we realize that there is a gap where we can think and do, where we can analyze and say whether this is right or not. The word manushya, as we all know that all Sanskrit words will have the meaning in the etymology itself. The meaning will be there in the etymology itself. So, manushya means Matva karmani sivyanti iti manushyaha, which means every activity of the human being is done only after due deliberation. The activity is carried out only after due deliberation. One does not do an activity just like that, just because one likes to do it. If one does an activity without deliberating upon it, then there is every possibility that that particular activity may be detrimental to oneself or the society. Both are possible. So one has to compulsorily deliberate upon the pros and cons. What about normal activities of a day? What about sleeping? What about eating? Should one deliberate? Absolutely. One should deliberate upon, before going to sleep, whether I should sleep today, how long I should sleep today, how I should sleep today, what should be the manner of my bedding. If one does not deliberate, then one is not a conscious human being, one is not actually living the life in the right manner. Every day, every activity has to be deliberated upon, at least during the activity, if not prior to the activity. One goes to the activity, for example, what exactly is the purpose of this item called as spectacles? One should deliberate upon that one. Every day there should be a novelty in using it also. It's not that same Thursday has come, same Saturday has come once again. That is not true good life. That is like any other natural process. Not like any other natural process. Natural processes take place like a routine, But the human being is endowed with this consciousness which can make everything new. Which can make everything new. Every day can be a new day. So this continuous conscious approach towards life is called as right life. If one does not live with a conscious approach towards life, then one is just another part of nature which is functioning on its own, although we always remain part of the nature. But when we see something going on as a regular routine, we see something going on as a regular routine, from the regular routine we have invented machines. Seeing the regularity only we invented machines. So machines are something which can perform an activity when programmed. So if man also exactly does the same routine every day, then he is also a machine. There is no difference. In fact, the definition of man in which branch of knowledge? Man is a rational animal. I do not know whether you read this or not. Man is a rational animal. Slightly really pronounce it otherwise. Man is a rational animal. So he is a ration, just like we have quotas for ration. So man does activities, okay, this has to be done, this has to be done. So the word rational means contemplative life. And contemplation is not possible without the application of the mind and intellect. There is no contemplation. Contemplation is possible only when the mind and intellect are active. Therefore man, if you want to call the word animal in a broader sense, is conscious. The word prani. Manushyaha api prani. Manushya is also prani because we have prana. We breathe. The other living beings also breathe, therefore they are prani. Same way animal, from that only animation has come. What is animation? Introducing movements. Earlier they were all stills, now it is animated. Everything is animated. So animation is movement. Animation, in the broadest sense, is consciousness. In Italian language, Atma is called as anima. Anima is Atma. Exactly the translation of the soul. Anima, l'anima. Anima is Atma. So Atma is consciousness. So keeping oneself absolutely conscious, not being like a machine, one contemplates, and then slowly one approaches right life, which all of us in the heart of hearts wish. Once we approach right life, what happens? Then we live a harmonious life. We live a happy life, not making others also to live a happy life. Now we'll see what Hanuman has done. Hanuman is now once again clear. He has spotted Sita Devi, and with mixed emotions, he is seeing so many things. Observing that large-eyed and irreproachable princess, Hanuman concluded her to be Sita, establishing her identity on the following grounds. He perceived the same ornaments casting their charm on her limbs as Sri Rama had mentioned at the time of his Hanuman's leaving Kishkinda as existing on the person of Sita, a princess of the Videha territory. So Sri Rama had described, these are the ornaments she was wearing, and because you remember, actually at the time of Vanavas, Rama had decided to be a Jatasari and only in the form of a sannyasi. And Sita decided to accompany Ram also. Sita decided to accompany Ram. So as a devout wife, can she wear ornaments and come? So from where did she get the ornaments? Sita completely removed every single ornament and handed it over to the palace and went away. After going a little amount of the forest, they came to one ashrama, and in that ashrama, the Rishi Patni of one Rishi, she says, these are required for you, you wear these ornaments. Once again, she was given ornaments. Otherwise, she did not have ornaments. She would not have worn ornaments. And the Rishi Patni, wherever, because on the way they required some food or something, so they used to sojourn in different places. In one of the ashrams, Sita is given the ornaments once again to wear. You wear these will be useful for you. So Ram now mentioned those ornaments. That these were the ornaments that Sita was wearing when she left this place. He said to himself, I find on her a pair of skillfully shaped earrings and also a pair of well-fitting Shwandamstras, another ornament for the ears, as well as Shwadamstras, another ornament for the ears, as well as ornaments on the limbs of her hands set with gems and coral. Though darkened due to their not having been brushed for a long time, and also due to their contact with her untidy person, they are of the same shape. I therefore believe them to be the same of which Sri Rama spoke at the time. I don't find on her person those which had dropped on the Rishyamukha mountain. Some ornaments had dropped when Ravana forcibly had abducted her. No doubt the existing ornaments are the same which did not drop from her person. That shining yellow upper garment, which looked like a sheet of gold due to its texture of gold, and which when dropped was seen by the monkeys caught in a tree at that time, as also the principal ornaments found lying on the earth's surface, which were valuable and made a tinkling sound, were dropped by her alone. Some ornaments and the upper garment had fallen down. So that upper garment, golden like garment, and the ornaments, all those had been taken and kept by the monkeys. So the remaining ornaments that he has seen, Hanuman has seen those are ornaments which have fallen down, and they do not tally with that, what she is wearing. That means that those are the ones which have fallen down, is correct. Now he is tallying them. Although the existing garment on her person is exceedingly worn, having been used by her for a long time, its color is yet unfaded, and the piece is as bright as the other one. She is no other than the beloved and virtuous spouse of Sri Rama, with golden limbs, who, though out of his sight, has not disappeared from his mind. So Rama has not, so Sita has disappeared from his sight, but she has not disappeared from the mind. Normally we say out of sight, out of mind. That is not there with Rama. Sita is out of sight, but she is not out of the mind of Sri Rama. Here is the one for whom Sri Rama is suffering torment through the following four, namely pity, tenderness, grief and love. Through pity for a helpless woman deserving protection, having disappeared. Through tenderness for one who was dependent on him. Through grief at the thought of his own spouse having been lost. And through love for one who was beloved of him. So we have four types of emotions beautifully described. That is pity. One should be protected, one is not protected, so pity. Tenderness, because he says she was dependent upon Sri Ram. So Ram is also feeling her absence. That's why the feeling of tenderness is coming. And then grief, because he is now separated from her. And love, because she is very dear to him. All four emotions are expressed there. The comeliness of Sri Rama and the elegance of each of his major and minor limbs are analogous to those of this godlike lady, and the comeliness of this lady is similar to that of Sri Rama. Hence, this dark-eyed woman must be his consort. The comeliness means the beauty, the formation of the body, the formation of Sri Ram's body, and because all that Hanuman has heard of this. See, another thing is, in the traditional method of finding, the traditional Bharatiya method of matrimony, the traditional, and when I say traditional, I mean it is not just the present day method of marriage where one decides one's consort oneself. Traditional method of marriage, all these features used to be seen. Every single feature would be seen, and then the marriage would be decided. The similarity, whatever we say Khan Dan, it's not just money. It's not just money or wealth. It is the way of life also. Whether the way of life and the physical appearance also suits one another for making the couple a very good couple so that they live together for a long time. All these details would be seen. So Hanuman finds similarities in the features of Ram and Sita. Hence this dark-eyed woman must be his consort. The mind of this godlike lady is set on him, while his mind is set on her. For this reason alone does she, as also that pious-minded soul, survive even for a short while. For survival, for survival of a human being, there must be one single purpose. If there is no purpose, what is the point in living? Somewhere or the other, the mind should be anchored. The mind is anchored somewhere. Most of the mothers will say this. Most of the mothers will say this. I am living only for their sake. What does it mean? That means the mind of the mother is anchored in the persons whom the mother wants to live. The personal cause for survival is not so important than the people who are there, who are dependent upon the mother. So, for the sake of them, we live, therefore there is a purpose. So, Ram is still alive because of the hope that Sita will be alive. Sita is still alive with the hope that Ram is still alive. Even a slightest information that something has happened means, well, life will go away. Lord Sri Rama has done what was hard to accomplish for him, in that he has been able to preserve his life even though disunited from her, and does not perish through grief. Delighted in this way to behold Sita as mentioned above, Hanuman sprung from the loins of the wind god, sought the presence of Sri Rama with his mind, and admired the aforesaid Lord. Thus, Canto 15 in the Sundarakanda of the glorious Ramayana of Valmiki, the work of a Rishi and the oldest epic. Hari Om Tat Sat.